As we have been reporting, the Manhattan District Attorney's Office has opened a corruption investigation into City Hall involving the city's leasing of commercial properties. This now brings the number of corruption probes surrounding the mayor to 5 in total. The indictment of Mayor Eric Adams has brought renewed attention to the longstanding relationship between the mayor and the police department. Adams was elected with a promise of reducing crime in the city, and part of trying to fulfill that promise, some say, led to giving even greater powers to the police force. Mara Gay, a journalist with the New York Times Editorial Board member, wrote an op-ed looking at the questions around the NYPD's culture of impunity and influence on City Hall, and she joins me now to talk a little bit more about this. Let's start, Mara. First of all, welcome to the Rush Hour. I'm so glad you're here.
Thank you for having me.
I want to talk about how the mayor got elected in the first place and his trying to fulfill that promise on getting tough on crime, what that has led to, what type of mayor has that made him become?
Sure. So, of course, we had a situation in New York, like in many American cities, where during the pandemic we saw crime rise, and there were very real concerns around that throughout the city. And so along comes Eric Adams, a former NYPD captain, who also had cast himself as not only understanding how to fight crime, but as a reformer of the department, which he was kind of years ago. And so he comes along at this really difficult moment and challenging moment in the pandemic, and he puts himself forward as mayor. And I think that what I'm hoping to do here is to encourage us as New Yorkers to kind of re-examine our own relationship with the police department, which is, the culture that he comes out of, that Eric Adams comes out of, is really one of impunity. I mean, this police department has thousands of officers who serve nobly, who put their lives on the line every day. But the organization that they work for has, for years, gotten bigger and bigger budgets with very little oversight.
And so talk about how that relationship between the NYPD and public has played out under this mayor, because we just got new crime data this week, and major crime categories have gone down. Crime has gone down in some of the most closely watched felony categories.
So yes, first of all, just to back up for a moment, what's happened is Eric Adams came in, putting himself forward to kind of solve this crime problem. And there has been progress. Murders and shootings are down. By the way, they are actually down in many cities across the country. So this is a national trend. Crime has fallen since the kind of official end, if you will, of the pandemic. But if you look at some other categories of crime, rapes have ticked up slightly since Mayor Adams has come into office. So has crime on the subway and grand larceny. So it's kind of a mixed picture, and I don't say this to blame the mayor necessarily, because the reality is that the causes of crime are very complex, and policing is just part of that story. The real issue is whenever crime rises in New York, New Yorkers have a way of kind of saying, well, let the police department do whatever it wants to solve this problem. And what I think is that it might be better to say, crime is a serious issue, but it matters how the police department does its job. So we do want them to keep us safe, but they also are public servants, and we have to make sure that that organization is accountable to the city it serves, and also, I would say, to the mayor at City Hall. And that's not quite what happened here.
And so here we are with the mayor who has been indicted. And I want to see if you can link these two topics. I just want to read one quote from your article where you write, "Impunity isn't just about individual officers getting away with misconduct. It's also about the attitude of the department's leadership and the cues those leaders take from their bosses at City Hall."
Right. Well, we have a couple examples that I mentioned in this piece that show us that I think the department is unfortunately straying from its mission in serving the public and keeping it safe. One is a really horrific shooting that we saw several weeks ago on a subway platform in Brooklyn, in which a knife-wielding suspect was shot, but so were 3 other people, including 2 just subway riders. And that can happen. It's horrific. It's tragic. These officer-involved shootings do take place. and they should be thoroughly investigated. The concern is that the mayor's response to that was to blindly defend the office. And that was a little bit strange, and I think really not what you want to see when you're talking about accountability. The other issue is, of course, this horrific situation where not only are these investigations surrounding the police department at City Hall, but we also have a man who has come forward, a Brooklyn bar owner, of course, Shamel Kelly, who has said that he was extorted by someone who was representing the police department and City Hall. And so I think we're starting to see some signs that the police department needs stronger oversight. It has been the case, I would argue, for many years that the police department needs stronger oversight.
And the CCRB and those who oversee a little bit the police department don't really seem to have any teeth to actually make or force change. So just in our final seconds, with this mayor under indictment and with what you say needs to be more oversight of the department, I guess there's no simple answer, but what's a first step?
A first step would be no longer electing a mayor who was a police captain. Now, I'm not saying that is always a bad idea, but I think in this case, you really do want two independent agencies. And the police commissioner should report to the mayor. The mayor and the police commissioner should not be kind of one and the same. I think it's very clear that the NYPD, which is the nation's largest police department, needs a strong hand of oversight from City Hall. It did not get that with Eric Adams, and that's a problem not only for the public, but for officers who are putting their lives on the line every day.
Mara Gay, journalist and New York Times editorial board member, thanks so much. Really appreciate you coming on.
Thanks for watching our YouTube channel. For more stories in your communities, click the subscribe button right here. You can also download our app or watch us on TV for the latest news and weather updates every 10 minutes and more. We'll see you then.